you. So now we're going to move on to the questions from you guys, the real and true Americans. Now you know when John Kerry admitted to committing war crimes, he became an unlawful combatant. So that means it's okay to torture him any way you want, even with leftist college students. So if your question runs a little long, don't worry, I don't believe in tasers. On the other hand, if your question runs a little long, I do believe in the Second Amendment. So just throw up your hand, I'm going to point at you, give me your name, where you're from, a brief question. Go ahead. Sir.
I'm Lyle, I'm from Real, Virginia.
Okay.
I was just wondering what you think about the kids these days.
What do I think about the kids?
What are you going to do about the kids?
Well, one of the things I'm going to do about the kids is I'm going to make sure that they're not part of the socialized education system. I mean, socialized medicine doesn't work in Canada. Socialized communism didn't work in the Soviet Union. Why do we think socialized education is going to work in America? So that's the first thing I do. The second thing I do with the kids, make sure they were born. Are there any other questions? I'm sure you guys have. Oh, sure.
Hi, my name is Art from College Park.
Okay.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
5 years since we've invaded Iraq, do you think there should be a timetable to remove troops out of Iraq? Or?
Well, Iraq is something I've thought long and hard about, as we have to. You said it's been 5 years since we invaded Iraq. It's important to remember it's been 7 years since 9/11. And the Bible commanded us in this instance. We were attacked by Afghanistan, so we followed the biblical golden rule, 2 eyes for 1 eye. And that is why we had to invade Iraq, as I'm sure you know. The problem we're having right now, I was talking to some great neocon thinkers, it's easy to bring democracy to the Middle East, but it is hard to bring democracy to Iraqis. I'm not saying that to be racist. Somebody had to be born in the inferior race. I don't hate them. Okay? But I do believe that we should be getting the American military presence out of Iraq. Now, I don't mean that in the same way that Barack Hussein Obama means let the Iranians take over. I don't mean that in the same way John McCain means, where he's going to dream of a magic world where the Iraqis suddenly stop shooting each other. The way I'm going to do it is I'm going to handle it the way we should handle all government property, and we should privatize Iraq and auction it off to the highest bidder. All right, are there any other questions? I can keep going. Oh, I'm sorry, you were just rubbing your nose. You guys don't have it? Oh, sir.
Yeah.
What's your name? Where are you from?
My name's Seth, and I'm from Ashburn.
Oh, good to meet you, Seth.
Nice to meet you too, sir. I was wondering how you feel about the National Endowment of Veterans.
Oh, well, I feel very much like it's more dangerous than John McCain's airplane, as you might have heard. It really worries me. I don't think the government should be paying for anything. Because that means that they have to tax you. And in McCulloch v. Maryland, the Supreme Court decided that the tax is to destroy. They're making this art out of you. It might as well be like that poop cross that Giuliani was fighting, only with your bones and your flesh and your organs. Under a Klein administration, there would be no NEA. And by that, I also mean the Educators Association. Are there any other questions? Sir?
I'm John from Fairfax.
Good to meet you, John.
What do you think about stem cell research? Would you support it?
Well, you know what the thing is about stem cells. There are a lot of different stem cells. Right? There's the embryonic stem cells, where if you poke them, you're murdering them. And then there's the adult stem cells, which are totally not murder for obvious reasons. I support as much adult stem cell research as possible. But I also support research in safe areas. And actually, to be clear, I don't want the government paying for any of this research. Let the market decide. Because right now, when we have the government getting involved, we have disproportionalities. People are giving money to AIDS funding Who cares about AIDS? There aren't that many people with AIDS, more people with cancer. And that's a problem with the government getting involved. So I think people should determine their own funding with private money. But I think that we should make sure that there's no murder going on, which is embryonic stem cell research. It'd be a shame to execute all those scientists, I guess. All right, sir.
Eugene from Philadelphia.
Oh, long way.
Yeah, what do you think about the fact that we have 5 Catholics in the Supreme Court?
Well, you know, Catholics do kind of worry me because they get their orders from... anyway, if you know the history of the conservative intellectual movement, you got guys like Albert J. Nock, right, and all these other guys, they all converted to Catholicism on their deathbed. And, I mean, you got a guy like Bill Buckley, may he rest in peace, Catholic. So conservatism and Catholicism have been wound up throughout history. My only worry is that, again, all these conservatives found Catholicism on their deathbed. I'm worried that these 5 judges might all of a sudden keel over. But other than that, they're mostly great, except for Anthony Kennedy, who couldn't stick with a position if you use super glue. More questions. I love questions. I love reaching out to Americans. I've got short, stubby arms, but we can reach out with words. Are there more? Sir, I'm sorry.
My name is Jeremy. I'm from Mount Pleasant.
Good to meet you, Jeremy.
And I've been living in D.C. for a few years, and I'm really concerned and I'm upset that D.C. citizens don't have the right to vote in Congress. What do you feel about that?
Well, let me tell you, when they wrote the Constitution, they wrote it so D.C. citizens can't vote. So it seems like a pretty open and shut case because the founders were never wrong about anything. Including Map 350. And, but I can see why I would upset you. But let me explain to you why. Maybe you'll feel better. Throughout history, capitals of states were located away from the people, except in Massachusetts, which explains why they're screwed up. Boston capital, Boston City. But like New York State, all the Manhattanites are all congregated in one place, and the state capital is in Albany, where nobody ever wants to go. The point is to keep the power away from the people who are the representatives. What happens if you let Washington vote and you're letting the congressmen vote? Why would you trust these congressmen to vote on anything? So that's why you can't let D.C. vote.